The Hidden Money Current, How Wealth Finds You Effortlessly. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. You've been chasing money for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to let it find you, haven't you? In the endless pursuit of wealth, there's a hidden current most people never notice, quiet, invisible, yet powerful enough to change everything. This book isn't about hustling harder or grinding longer. It's about tuning into that current, understanding how wealth moves, and allowing yourself to flow with it instead of constantly fighting against it. As Jim Rohn once said, success is something you attract by the person you become. The wealth you seek doesn't always arrive through force. Sometimes, it comes when you stop pushing and start aligning. We'll explore why some people seem to draw opportunities effortlessly while others struggle endlessly, no matter how hard they work. We'll uncover the subtle patterns behind financial freedom, the quiet psychology of prosperity, and the art of shifting from a life of strain to one of flow. This isn't magic. It isn't luck. It's awareness. And once you see how the current works, you can never unsee it. The journey ahead isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about rediscovering what's been there all along: clarity, choice, and a rhythm of life where wealth finds you as naturally as a river meets the sea. Take a deep breath. Turn the page. The current is already moving. Would you like me to follow this with Chapter 1 at exactly 600 words, keeping this same immersive tone? It'll set up the first lesson without breaking the flow. Chapter 1. The Shift You Never Saw Coming. You've been told that wealth comes from relentless action, haven't you? Work harder, grind longer, sacrifice more. But if that were the full truth, wouldn't everyone living on double shifts already be financially free? Somewhere deep down, you've sensed it. The harder you row against the current, the further you drift from the shore. Wealth, real wealth, has its own rhythm. It moves quietly beneath the surface while most people splash at the top, exhausting themselves without ever going anywhere. What if the goal isn't to fight harder but to learn how to float? Pause for a moment and look around. The people who seem to attract opportunity, who somehow stumble into lucky breaks, aren't always the smartest, the strongest, or even the most disciplined. They've simply learned to align with how money moves. They understand something most were never taught: money responds less to force and more to flow. Think about this. Every dollar you've ever earned passed through someone else's hands first. Wealth is never stagnant, it's motion itself. The tragedy is that most people live as if money is static, as if it must be chased, cornered, and captured before it vanishes. But wealth is more like wind than stone. Try to grip it too tightly, and it slips away. The shift begins the moment you stop treating money like a distant reward and start seeing it as energy, drawn, directed, and multiplied by your beliefs, your awareness, and your positioning. As Tony Robbins once said, it's not about resources. It's about resourcefulness. That's where the current starts, within you. So stop forcing. Start aligning. From here on, we'll dive into the patterns, habits, and silent triggers that pull prosperity toward you. The current is real, and it's already moving. Chapter 2. When Money Starts Listening. You've spent years believing that the only way to build wealth is to shout louder, move faster, and work harder. That's what they taught you, wasn't it? The universe rewards those who grind the longest, sleep the least, and keep pushing until they collapse. And yet, if you pause and really look, you'll notice something unsettling. Some of the wealthiest people you know don't seem to be trying that hard at all. There's a moment, quiet but undeniable, when you realize wealth isn't responding to how much effort you throw at it. It's responding to something else entirely. It listens, not to volume or velocity, but to clarity. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone hustling endlessly, working 2, maybe 3 jobs, and yet their financial situation barely moves? Now contrast that with the person who seems to always stumble into opportunities, as if doors just appear for them where everyone else finds walls. It isn't luck. It isn't a chance. It's alignment. Wealth listens differently when you do. Money has a strange way of following focus. Not the frantic, scattered kind that tries everything and commits to nothing, but the grounded kind. The kind that comes when you finally know what you want, why you want it, and where you're headed. Clarity is the magnet. Without it, wealth has no reason to stop by. With it, money begins to recognize your direction and move toward it almost effortlessly. But there's a trap, and you've likely been caught in it without realizing. It's the trap of force. We've been raised to think the louder we demand, the more we'll receive. The more energy we burn, the more the world owes us back. Yet money doesn't bend to exhaustion. It bends to alignment. The current doesn't reward splashing, it rewards those who surrender to its pull. Consider this: every transaction, every dollar, every exchange is simply energy changing form. The wealthiest among us understand this deeply. They've stopped seeing money as a thing to be trapped or possessed and started treating it as a living flow to be navigated. That shift alone separates struggle from ease, scarcity from abundance. There's another secret they rarely say out loud: wealth responds faster when you remove noise. Not just the noise of constant action, but the mental noise, the stories you've been carrying for years. Maybe you were told growing up that money was hard to come by, that only certain kinds of people could have it, that opportunities belonged to someone else. Those stories built walls inside your mind, and you've been rowing against them ever since. The truth is simpler: when you stop reinforcing scarcity, money stops avoiding you. As Earl Nightingale once said, "We become what we think about." The wealthiest people have internalized this, not as motivation, but as mechanics. If your thoughts are tuned to lack, your actions follow, your choices narrow, and your results mirror scarcity. But when your thoughts shift towards sufficiency, possibilities expand. The world seems to rearrange itself around that signal. Here's the quiet irony: wealth has been trying to find you all along. You've simply been too busy to notice it knocking. While you were sprinting, chasing, demanding, and forcing, you drowned out the subtle cues and opportunities floating past you. The people who appear effortlessly lucky aren't luckier, they're simply listening better. This is the beginning of the shift. From this moment forward, your work isn't to create opportunity, it's to clear enough internal space so you can see it. The current isn't waiting. It's been moving beneath you all along, patient, steady, constant. All you have to do is stop thrashing long enough to feel it. Money doesn't need convincing. It needs clarity. And the moment you find it, wealth finally starts listening. Chapter 3: The Quiet Geometry of Wealth. There's a shape to wealth most people never notice. It isn't a straight line, no matter how many charts, projections, or plans you've drawn up. It curves, folds, and spirals in ways that confuse those who think effort alone drives results. You've been taught to picture money like a ladder, step by step, rung by rung, but in reality it moves more like ripples in water. One shift here, one decision there, and suddenly, everything expands outward in ways you couldn't predict. If this feels abstract, that's because it is, at least until you've experienced it. There's a moment when you realize wealth isn't simply earned, it's positioned. The flow doesn't reward the loudest, busiest, or even the most deserving. It rewards the ones who've placed themselves where the current naturally gathers. That placement isn't random. It comes from seeing patterns that most overlook, the quiet geometry shaping the movement of money itself. You've seen this before, even if you didn't have words for it. Someone makes a single decision, a move, a choice, an investment, and suddenly their entire financial life tilts in their favor. From the outside, it looks like luck. Up close, it's awareness. They understood something others ignored: wealth isn't captured through chasing, it's attracted by standing still in the right place at the right time. This isn't about waiting passively. It's about tuning in. Opportunities aren't scarce, perception is. Most people are too busy running after everything to notice where money naturally pools. But if you pause, listen, and learn the rhythm, you begin to notice subtle shifts others miss. And once you see the pattern, you can unsee it. As Warren Buffett once said, opportunities come infrequently. When it rains gold, put out the bucket, not the thimble. The geometry of wealth is exactly that: understanding when to move, when to hold, and when to simply stay ready. There's a quiet confidence that comes with this awareness. You no longer feel desperate. You stop clinging to every dollar out of fear it might be your last. You trust the current because you've learned how to read it. That trust, paradoxically, makes wealth flow faster. While others are still splashing wildly, you're floating, steady, calm, knowing where the river bends next. Most people never reach this place because they're too busy measuring progress with the wrong tools. They count hours, wages, and effort without noticing leverage, timing, and positioning. They treat money like a direct transaction when, in reality, it behaves more like a conversation. It responds to alignment, to readiness, to how clearly you've tuned your intentions and actions to its frequency. The shift doesn't happen overnight. It begins slowly, with awareness. You start noticing your own patterns, the decisions that pull you downstream versus the ones that drag you against the current. Little by little, you stop fighting, and something changes inside you. The noise fades. Options seem to multiply. You make fewer moves, but they carry more weight. There's power in this kind of stillness. It's not passive. It's precise. It's the difference between forcing the door open and realizing it was never locked to begin with. Wealth isn't waiting to be wrestled into submission. It's been circling you all along, waiting for you to stop thrashing and see the shape beneath the surface. The geometry has always been there. Now you're finally ready to trace it. Chapter 4: The Space Where Wealth Arrives. You've probably spent years filling every corner of your life with effort. Every waking hour accounted for, every moment chasing, building, fixing, striving. But here's the quiet truth almost no one tells you: wealth rarely enters crowded spaces. When every thought, every action, and every breath is consumed by the need to make it happen, there's little room for anything new to arrive. There's a reason some people seem to attract money while others seem to repel it, even when they work just as hard. It isn't just strategy. It isn't just knowledge. It's space, the kind most of us avoid creating because silence feels uncomfortable. Yet within that stillness, something subtle begins to shift. When you stop forcing every outcome, you start allowing. This doesn't mean abandoning ambition or sitting idly, waiting for fortune to knock. It's the opposite. It's clearing mental clutter so you can finally notice the opportunities hiding in plain sight. While others sprint blindly, you stand still long enough to see the shortcuts, the open doors, the hidden currents pulling wealth quietly toward you. Think back to the moments in your life when something lucky happened, a chance introduction, an unexpected idea, an opportunity that arrived out of nowhere. Beneath the surface, those moments weren't random at all. They happened because you were present enough to recognize them. Money listens to presence more than it listens to effort. As Deepak Chopra once said, "In the midst of movement and chaos, keep stillness inside of you." The wealthiest among us live by this. They move, yes, but from a place of clarity rather than desperation. They don't scatter their energy in 100 directions. They create space, internally and externally, for wealth to flow in. Here's the paradox most people miss. Letting go of constant grasping often pulls abundance closer. When you stop signaling lack through urgency, you naturally align with sufficiency. That signal is quiet but powerful, and it changes how you see, choose, and act. Soon you begin noticing things differently. Conversations carry weight they didn't before. A casual remark from a friend suddenly sparks an idea. An overlooked email becomes the start of something bigger. Opportunities that once slipped past you seem to rise to the surface, as if drawn by magnetism. You haven't started working harder, you've started working aligned. And this is where the shift deepens. Because the current isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Most people never hear it because they're too busy generating noise. But the moment you learn to quiet that noise, the endless rushing, the looping doubts, the constant not enough, the whispers grow clearer. You finally realize that wealth wasn't absent before. You were just drowning out its arrival. The space you create inside yourself reflects outward. Decisions sharpen. Energy focuses. You move less but gain more traction. And the strange, beautiful thing is, you no longer feel like you're chasing anything. You're not running toward wealth anymore, you're simply standing where it already flows. Wealth doesn't need you to fight for it. It needs you to notice it. And that begins in the quiet spaces you've spent your life avoiding. Chapter 5: The Stories Money Hears. Long before you earned your first dollar, you were taught what money meant. Maybe not directly, but through every overheard conversation, every sigh at the kitchen table, every casual remark that slipped into your subconscious before you knew how to question it. Those quiet stories became your silent rules. You learned whether money was scarce or abundant, whether it belonged to people like us or people like them. You absorbed unspoken lessons about what you deserved, what was possible, and how hard you'd have to struggle to get it. These stories became invisible scripts, guiding choices you didn't realize you were making. Here's the part most people never see: wealth doesn't just respond to action, it responds to belief. You can work every hour of every day, but if your deepest story says money is difficult, unpredictable, or somehow not for you, you'll unconsciously sabotage the very outcomes you're chasing. Effort alone can't outpace a narrative running underneath it. Think about the last time you hesitated on an opportunity, doubted your value, or settled for less than you wanted. That wasn't logic at work, it was a story speaking through you. Until you change the story, the pattern repeats. The wealthiest people you know aren't free from fear, but they are free from inherited scripts. They've rewritten their relationship with money so completely that it no longer carries the weight of old voices. They see wealth as natural, not exceptional. Expected, not accidental. And because of that, money responds differently. As Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right." Those words reach deeper than motivation, they describe mechanics. Beliefs shape perception, perception shapes choices, and choices shape results. When your beliefs point towards scarcity, your reality reflects it. Shift them, and the current shifts with you. This isn't about blind optimism or repeating affirmations into the mirror. It's about becoming aware of the silent agreements you've made with yourself about what's possible. Ask where they came from. Ask who handed them to you. Ask if they still serve you, or if they ever did. Because here's the quiet truth: money doesn't care about your past, your upbringing, or the limitations someone else handed you. It doesn't care how many times you've failed or how long you've struggled. Money follows direction, and direction comes from belief. When you begin to question your old narratives, subtle changes unfold. Opportunities you once dismissed suddenly seem reachable. Risks you used to avoid start feeling inevitable. The doors were always there, your story just convinced you they were locked. Wealth listens carefully. Not to what you say out loud, but to the energy beneath it, the quiet signals of your expectations, the undercurrent of what you believe you deserve. Change those signals, and money responds differently. You don't have to force this shift. You simply have to notice where your old stories end and a new one begins. When that happens, the current of wealth stops resisting you. It starts moving with you. Chapter 6: When Opportunity Knocks Quietly. Most people think opportunity arrives like a thunderclap, loud, obvious, impossible to miss. But in reality, it almost never does. It comes quietly, disguised as something ordinary, while everyone's too busy rushing, doubting, or second-guessing to notice. The wealthiest among us aren't luckier, they're simply tuned in differently. They hear the knock no one else hears. Opportunities rarely announce themselves. They slip in through side doors, wrapped in casual conversations, fleeting ideas, or unexpected invitations. Sometimes, they don't even look like opportunities at all. They look like extra work, uncertain risks, or paths without clear endings. That's why most people walk right past them. They're waiting for certainty, and certainty almost never comes. Here's the quiet secret: wealth follows those who create space to notice. When your mind is filled with noise, the signals get lost. You don't see the subtle patterns connecting one decision to the next. You dismiss doors because they don't look like what you imagine. But when you quiet the rushing, when you stop chasing long enough to observe, you begin catching threads others overlook. Think back on your own life. There were moments, small, almost forgettable, when a choice shifted everything. A conversation led to an introduction. A side project became a career pivot. A single yes changed the trajectory entirely. From the outside, those leaps look lucky. From the inside, they were simply moments of awareness meeting preparation. Wayne Gretzky once said, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But here's the part most people overlook: you can't take the shot if you don't see the puck. Awareness comes first. Wealth doesn't require reckless action, it requires tuned attention, the willingness to spot possibility where others see nothing at all. This doesn't mean chasing every shiny distraction. It means learning the difference between noise and signal. Opportunities aligned with your values, your vision, and your flow often feel quieter, calmer, even understated. They don't demand. They invite. The more you cultivate inner stillness, the easier it becomes to sense that invitation. You'll also notice this. When you begin saying yes to the right opportunities, others begin finding you. People who operate within the current of wealth recognize it in each other. They gravitate toward those who listen well, who see clearly, who move with intention rather than desperation. In this way, opportunities compound. One aligned yes opens doors you didn't even know existed. But none of this works if you're drowning in urgency. Scarcity scrambles perception. When you're convinced there's never enough, you rush decisions, force outcomes, and overlook the very openings that could change everything. Abundance begins first as awareness, the simple belief that possibilities exist, even if you can't see them yet. That belief tunes your attention to different frequencies. You start spotting paths where you once saw walls. The current of wealth doesn't roar. It whispers. The question isn't whether opportunity knocks, it's whether you've created enough space to hear it when it does. Chapter 7: The Timing Hidden in Plain Sight. You've been taught that speed is everything. Move fast. Decide quickly. Seize every chance before someone else does. And yet, if speed alone created wealth, wouldn't everyone who rushed into the market, every deal, every job, already be free? The truth is quieter and harder to swallow. Timing matters more than motion. There's an invisible rhythm to opportunity, a current that moves whether you notice it or not. Some people push endlessly, acting before the moment is ripe, forcing doors that were never meant to open yet. Others wait too long, hesitating until the chance has already passed. In both cases, wealth slips through their fingers. It isn't effort that determines the outcome, it's alignment with the right moment. Timing isn't luck. It's awareness sharpened by stillness. When you're constantly sprinting, urgency clouds your perception. You can't distinguish between what's ready and what isn't. But when you create space, when you allow silence, you begin noticing signals most people ignore. A conversation hints at a shift before it makes headlines. A subtle market change points to new possibilities before anyone else reacts. Patience, then, isn't passive. It's precision. It's holding steady until the path aligns with the current, and then moving decisively when it does. As Lao Tzu said, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." The wealthiest people live by this. They don't confuse activity with progress. They've learned that waiting isn't wasted time, it's compound preparation. Think about the moments in your life when everything seemed to click into place. The right person appeared. The right decision revealed itself. It felt effortless, not because nothing was happening before, but because you were finally aligned with the timing of what was already unfolding. Most people miss these moments because they're chasing everything at once. They're gripping too tightly, demanding results before the season is ready. But timing is less about control and more about trust. The current knows when to carry you forward. Your work is to stay present enough to notice when it turns. Here's the paradox. When you stop forcing, you create space for momentum. You stop burning energy in places that aren't ready and start noticing where doors are quietly swinging open. You learn to act swiftly, but only when the current pulls, not when fear pushes. This is how opportunity compounds. One aligned move at the right moment ripples outward, creating leverage you can't manufacture through effort alone. You act less but gain more. You wait longer, but arrive faster. Wealth begins flowing toward you not because you chase harder, but because you've learned how to listen for its timing. The river is always moving, but knowing when to step in changes everything. Chapter 8: The Compass You Forgot You Had. You've been taught to trust numbers, logic, and plans. Every financial decision, they say, should be grounded in data and reason. And yet, if logic alone built wealth, the smartest people would always be the richest. But look around, you know that isn't true. Something else is at play, something quieter but no less real: intuition. Intuition isn't magic. It isn't guessing. It's the accumulation of subtle signals you've been gathering your entire life, patterns your conscious mind can't fully articulate but your deeper awareness recognizes instantly. It whispers when a deal feels wrong even though the numbers look perfect. It nudges you toward a path you can't fully explain but somehow know is right. The wealthiest people don't ignore logic, they pair it with instinct. They trust their internal compass when data alone doesn't show the whole picture. This doesn't happen by accident. It comes from creating enough inner stillness to hear signals most people drown out. Intuition speaks softly, noise buries it. Think back on your life. There were moments when you just knew. Maybe you avoided an opportunity that later collapsed or pursued something uncertain that became transformative. At the time, you couldn't explain why, but looking back, you realize it wasn't random. Intuition connected dots your conscious mind hadn't caught up to yet. Albert Einstein once said, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant." The challenge is that most people reverse the roles. They rely on logic alone while dismissing the quiet wisdom beneath it. But intuition isn't irrational. It's deeply practical when you learn how to listen. Cultivating it begins with presence. When you slow down and pay attention, you notice subtleties others miss: shifts in tone during a conversation, unspoken hesitations, patterns hidden inside patterns. These small cues build a picture your conscious mind hasn't fully assembled, yet your intuition has. Wealth responds to this awareness because you begin moving earlier, sensing openings before they're obvious. Opportunities rarely wait until you feel certain. By the time logic confirms them, the window often closes. Intuition lets you act while everyone else is still collecting data, hesitating, or doubting themselves. This isn't recklessness, it's alignment with timing most can't see. The key is discernment, knowing the difference between fear and intuition. Fear shouts. Intuition whispers. Fear pushes you to act out of scarcity. Intuition guides you toward expansion. Fear wants guarantees. Intuition thrives in possibility. One constricts your choices, the other expands them. As you practice listening, something shifts. The path ahead stops feeling chaotic and starts feeling connected. You no longer need to control every outcome because you trust yourself to sense the current beneath the surface. Decisions become lighter, faster, and strangely accurate. Logic builds the map. Intuition tells you when to turn. Together, they create movement with less friction, less wasted energy, and far more leverage. That's why the most aligned decisions rarely feel forced. They feel inevitable. The compass has been with you all along. The work is simply remembering how to follow it. Chapter 9: The Rooms That Shape Your Reach. We like to believe we make financial decisions in isolation, guided only by our will, our effort, and our choices. But step back for a moment, and you'll notice something deeper. The environment around you quietly shapes your relationship with wealth long before you act. The conversations you hear, the energy you absorb, even the spaces you occupy, they leave invisible imprints on what you believe is possible. Look closely at the people around you. Some circles normalize limitation. They discuss how money is scarce, how opportunities are reserved for others, how the game is rigged and there's no point trying. Spend enough time in those rooms, and those beliefs seep into your thinking. You begin setting ceilings you don't remember agreeing to. Without realizing it, you make smaller moves, safer choices, and decisions that keep you exactly where you are. And then there are other rooms. Rooms where possibility breathes differently. Conversations are about expansion, not survival. Ideas flow freely. Opportunities are exchanged casually, as though abundance is the natural state of things. When you step into those spaces, your perspective shifts. You start noticing paths you couldn't see before. What once felt impossible begins to seem inevitable. As Jim Rohn once said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Wealth responds to this truth more directly than most realize. It isn't about imitation, it's about resonance. You start aligning with the expectations of the environments you inhabit. You adopt their pace, their patterns, and their definitions of normal. Over time, those quiet adoptions compound into visible results. This isn't just about people. Physical spaces carry energy too. Cluttered rooms breed cluttered minds. Environments filled with distraction drown out the subtle cues wealth uses to signal its arrival. When your surroundings are chaotic, your attention scatters. But when you create calm, order, and intention in the spaces you occupy, something shifts inside you. Focus sharpens. Awareness heightens. You start seeing options instead of obstacles. The wealthiest among us are deliberate about where they spend their time and with whom. They choose environments that stretch them, conversations that elevate them, and relationships that open unseen doors. This isn't exclusion, it's alignment. They understand that currents of money, like rivers, move through certain spaces more than others. If you want to ride the current, you have to place yourself where it flows. It begins with awareness. Notice how you feel after leaving certain rooms, how your energy rises or drops around certain voices. Pay attention to which conversations leave you inspired and which leave you shrinking. Then ask yourself whether those spaces reflect the life you're moving toward, or the one you've outgrown. Shifting your environment isn't always comfortable. It often means letting go of dynamics you've carried for years, stepping into uncertainty, and surrounding yourself with people who challenge your limits rather than confirm them. But discomfort is where expansion begins. Wealth listens to the signals you send through your surroundings. When you choose spaces that align with abundance, you quietly invite it closer. You don't force the current, you step into it. The rooms you enter today become the reality you live tomorrow. Choose them as though your future depends on it. Because it does. Chapter 10: The Freedom in Letting Go. You've spent most of your life believing control creates security. If you could just plan better, work harder, hold on tighter, you'd finally feel safe. But here's the quiet paradox no one tells you: the more tightly you grip money, the faster it slips through your fingers. Wealth doesn't flow where there's tension. It moves where there's space. We've been taught to cling, to savings, to outcomes, to certainty itself. And yet, have you noticed how some of the wealthiest people you know seem oddly detached from it all? They move lightly, making decisions without fear. They invest without obsession. They trust without overthinking. From the outside, it looks reckless. Up close, it's alignment. They've learned what most resist their entire lives. Letting go isn't losing control. It's trusting the current to carry you further than force ever could. This doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or ignoring intention. It means releasing the desperation beneath it. When your energy whispers scarcity, even subtly, wealth feels it and keeps its distance. Detachment, on the other hand, signals sufficiency. It says, "I already have enough. More is welcome, but I am whole without it." That shift changes everything. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Those words hold a deeper truth. Freedom comes not from accumulation but from loosening your attachment to it. The less you need to grip, the more options you begin to see. Opportunities arrive faster when you stop chasing them with clenched fists. Think back to the moments when breakthroughs found you. They rarely came during frantic grasping. They came when you were open, curious, unburdened by expectation. That openness is magnetic. It draws people, ideas, and possibilities into your orbit effortlessly. Detachment isn't passivity. It's presence. It's focusing on aligned action without obsessing over outcome. You make the move, then release the need to control what follows. This space invites wealth in ways constant striving never could. And something unexpected happens when you stop defining yourself by what you have or don't have. Decisions become lighter. Fear softens. You act from clarity instead of panic. You stop forcing every door open and start recognizing the ones already unlocked. When you no longer cling, you notice abundance everywhere, not as a concept, but as a felt reality. You see it in opportunities others overlook, in connections others dismiss, in timing others misread. The current reveals itself the moment you stop thrashing against it. Wealth responds to ease. It follows those who move intentionally but lightly, rooted but unattached. The more you release the illusion of control, the more naturally prosperity finds you. Letting go doesn't mean surrendering your vision. It means trusting that the flow exists, and that you're already in it. Chapter 11: Where the Current Carries You. At the beginning of this journey, you thought wealth was something distant, something to be chased, earned, or captured through relentless effort. You believed the path was paved with constant motion, more hours, more hustle, more force. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. You began to see that wealth was never outside of you. It was always around you, moving quietly, waiting for you to notice the current beneath your feet. The people who seem effortlessly fortunate aren't born under different stars. They've simply learned to listen differently. They move with the rhythm instead of against it. They trust timing instead of trying to control it. They make fewer moves, but each one carries greater weight because it's aligned with where the flow is already going. This doesn't mean you stop working, planning, or striving. It means you stop fighting. It means you understand that force isn't the same as power. Power is quieter. Power is knowing when to act and when to wait. It's stepping into opportunities without clinging to them. It's letting go of stories that no longer serve you and choosing new ones that invite abundance closer. As Rumi once wrote, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the changing seasons that pass over your fields." Wealth, too, moves in seasons. There are moments to plant, moments to harvest, and moments simply to let the ground rest. When you stop resisting these cycles, life begins to open in ways you couldn't force into existence. The truth is, nothing has changed outside you. The markets are still unpredictable. Opportunities still rise and fall. But you've changed inside. You've learned to see patterns most overlook, to hear whispers others drown out, to trust an inner compass you'd long forgotten. And in that shift, you've stepped into alignment with something far greater than chasing. Wealth doesn't come from grabbing harder, it comes from allowing deeper. It comes from presence, clarity, and trust. It comes when you stop rowing frantically and let the river carry you where it's already headed. You're not standing at the edge anymore, looking for the current. You're in it. You always have been. Take care and be well.